piercing point in there, and we're going to throw in a magic bonus too. So again, you can do whatever it is you like for those, but you know, for this example, that's what we're going to do there. And that is it. So now, so we're going to get rid of this, because we updated our icons in recipe results, we're going to have to go into our crafting plugin, lay an item, and update our recipe icons. Done. Okay, so now we've got a bunch of recipes into the system. We've got the items in our blueprints and for everything we need. So some of the items for our recipes are just kind of like utility type items that we're going to have in our store. So we probably going to want to put those right in there. So we want recipe ingredients. So we want our block mold and our sheet mold, flight feather, and wooden shaft. We're just going to sell those things. Now again, I'd probably adjust my prices properly based on my economy. So those are all in my store. And the next thing I want to do is distribute these recipes. I have to give the player a way to learn how to do those recipes that I've created. So we already know one way. We're going to start by looking at the second way that we can do that. So let's fire up our crafting plugin. The second way is by using a recipe placeable object. So we're going to create one of these. We're going to call it a recipe. We'll call it a blacksmithing recipe book. And it goes with blacksmithing. Now, as you can see here, as soon as I select blacksmithing, this grid here shows me all the different kinds of blacksmithing recipes that are available. So for this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually have, I don't know, silver block and silver sheet maybe? Yeah. Let's do silver block and silver sheet by this guy. Actually, no, I'm going to do junk. Let's do junk. We already know silver ore ingots is that item, so we're not going to redo that one. So yeah, silver junk ingots and silver block we'll have as options for this thing. So let's finish that. And then we pull over our blueprints. And under placeables, we will see under resource, where do we put that? Here it is, training. Blacksmithing book. And let's find a nice little spot to put this book. I'm going to just drop its size down because it's the default size for this is relatively big. So I'm just going to do that. So this is just an interactive placeable that a player can come along, click on, and fire up the recipe learning GUI. So that's 2 recipes. Now let's move on to the next ones. So we'll fire up our tool again, and we're going to create this time. So we've seen recipe item, we've seen recipe placeable. Now we're going to do a recipe NPC. This is an NPC character that's going to teach us how to create some recipes. So we'll call this this guy Bert, the recipe trainer. And he is a blacksmithing. He teaches blacksmithing recipes, and he's going to teach the silver sheet and the silver tipped arrow. The conversation type, there's 2 options for conversation types. We're going to do both. We're going to have 2 trainers for recipes train both of these, just for demonstration purposes. And we're going to show the difference between the training GUI and the classic combo. So let me just do this first one, and then we're going to create another one, and we'll call this Ernie, recipe trainer. And he's also a blacksmithing trainer, and he's going to teach the same too. But he's going to use a classic convo. Okay, now you'll see what these look like, the differences between these when we go in game. And lastly, just for fun, we're going to create another recipe item, and this is going to be the enchanted silver arrow recipe. And it's going to be a recipe for that enchanted silver arrow. And there we go. Now, if I had a whole lot of time and I wanted to do this creatively, what I would probably do is go and take this enchanted silver arrow recipe and hide it in a dungeon somewhere as loot or something. But for now, I'm just going to kind of lay it back here. But that's a good recipe. That could be a reward for something. So, you know, those kind of recipes are useful to create as items like that. Now, the other thing we want to do is lay our two recipe trainers, Bert and Ernie, and we're just going to put these two guys over here. Bert being the GUI type guy and Ernie being the classic type guy. And that's it. That's the other ways that we can distribute recipes. Now again, if you're good with conversations and understand, you know, conditions and actions and whatnot in conversations, you can review the conversations that this thing comes with, and you know, even come up with your own types of conversations on how you want to give out recipes, but I'll leave that up to you. Or you can just use the built-in systems which work just fine. So we'll save this now and go back in game and demonstrate how we can go about learning those other recipes. So we'll see you in there in the next clip. Okay, so we're back in our quarry again. Oh, and by the way, just so you know, when I was went off camera to smelt down the rest of my ore, I ended up with quite a few silver ingots, enough to weigh me down. I don't have a whole lot of strength, so it didn't take much, but I do have quite a lot of silver ingots here. That's why I'm encumbered like I am, but that's okay. So what we want to talk about is demonstrating the other ways that I can learn recipes. Now, as you can see, I'll just walk over here just to remind you. I only have the one known recipe, and that's the silver ore ingots recipe. And I want to learn a few more blacksmithing type recipes. So, as mentioned, the first one is the placeable object, so blacksmithing recipe book. Go over and click on that. And as you can see, this is the recipe learning GUI that I've talked about a few times. All you have to do is click on one of these and it'll give you some details about it. This is the silver junk ingots recipe, like that we created earlier. Recipe cost 10. So if I want to learn this recipe from this book, I'll just pay the 10 gold and hit the learn button and off I go. So let's do that. Learn to craft silver junk ingots, and we'll do the same thing for the silver block. 114. Wow. So let's do that. Learn those two. And as you can see, when I click on the forge now, I can easily create these three types of recipes. Now, sometimes a placeable object or an item may not be what I want. I may want an actual NPC involved. So here are my two NPCs. We have Ernie, the recipe trainer, and Bert, the recipe trainer. Bert uses the recipe GUI as well. So let's demonstrate that. We'll talk to him. Greetings, are you interested in learning how to craft some items? I am interested. Very well, please review the recipes I can teach you. And up comes the recipe training GUI. So this behaves just like the placeable object one, where I can choose a recipe, I see the price that we put in into the GUI, and I can learn them that way. But I'm going to hit cancel on here so I can demonstrate the other method. Now the other method is when I selected classic conversation. So let's talk to Ernie. Hello there, are you interested in learning how to craft something? I charge 25 gold per recipe. This value here is just something that's coded into the conversation. I can change that whenever I like. Yes, I am. Excellent, what recipes would you like to learn? And he just simply offers a menu list of the recipes he can teach. So to learn the silver sheet, and he can learn the silver tipped arrow. So I'm going to learn the silver sheet from this guy, and I'm going to learn the silver tipped arrow from the other one. So we'll say silver sheet. Excellent, you're now trained. Thank you, and that's it. I'm going to talk to Bert here to learn the final recipe, and that's the silver tipped arrow for 15. So we'll hit learn on that one, and we now know how to make the silver tipped arrow. So again, the idea for the last item is we're exploring or venturing around in a dungeon, and we happen to run across a recipe for enchanted silver arrows, and we can activate that, and we've learned to craft the enchanted silver arrow. So let's have a look at our forge, and now I can make all sorts of things. So let's start by looking at the silver block. I I can make quite a few of these if I had some block molds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to our little merchant.